Broadcasting live from the NAPE Expo, the CRUDE Truth. Our first guest, George P. Bush, on this episode of the CRUDE Truth.
In 1901, at Spindletop Hill near Beaumont, the future of Texas changed dramatically as, like a fountain of fortune, thousands of barrels of oil burst from the earth towards the sky. Soon, Detroit would be cranking out Model Ts by the millions, and America was on the move, thanks to the black gold being produced in Texas. Now, more than a century later, the vehicles are different, but nothing else has truly changed. Sure, there may be many other alternative energy sources like wind and solar and electric. But let's be honest, America depends on oil and entrepreneurs, and if the USA is truly going to be independent, it has to know the crude truth.
NAPE is a proud sponsor of the CRUDE Truth. Be sure to register for the NAPE Expo 2024, February 7th through the 9th at the George R. Brown Convention Center in Houston, Texas. Hurry and register today. NAPE, where deals happen.
This episode is brought to you by LFS Chemistry, committed to being good stewards of the environment and providing the tools so you can be too. NAPE Expo, where deals happen. Air Compressor Solutions. When everything is on the line, Air Compressor Solutions is the dependable choice to keep commercial business powered up. Sandstone Group. Exec Crew. Elevate your network, elevate your knowledge. Oil and Gas Workers Association. Pecos Country Operating. Fueling our future.
All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon. Hello to everybody out there. As we've been advertising for weeks now, thank you so much for the NAPE Expo for letting us advertise. Here we are at the NAPE. We're on the ground floor. It's Wednesday. So if you hear a little bit of construction work, we're still setting up. But here we are. As you can see, my guest today is the one, the only former Texas Land Commissioner and also, more importantly, family man first, George P. Bush. George, how are you?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me. It's great to be with your audience.
Well, man, thank you so much for being here. I think you do call Houston home, correct?
I do. I was born here, played baseball down the street at Rice University, and I'm still a Rangers fan. But if Astros are still in it, Rangers not. Though next year looks like Rangers will be back.
Yeah.
Can't say that too loudly here in downtown Houston, but yeah, I got some personal ties, and then several relatives that still live here in Houston. And when I think about my time as land commissioner, I think about Hurricane Harvey relief.
Yeah.
Right here in the George R. Brown, I got to tell you, we had so many experiences working with local stakeholders and helping people get back on their feet. I mean, this place was loaded with survivors after that storm. It was the most devastating storm in Texas state history. So a lot of memories, the good, the bad, and sometimes the ugly here in Houston.
I totally forgot that they had turned this into a place to help everybody.
Totally.
It was packed, wasn't it, at one point?
It was packed. I mean, really from door to door with survivors from all over the community. And then you had USDA helping people out with food stamps and helping people get on their feet right after the storm. And I was helping with staff to muck and gut some of those initial homes with floods.
Yeah.
As you move a little bit further east to the Houston Ship Channel. But George R. Brown now today, as you can see, is it's about deal making in the oil and gas business. So like I said, the good and the bad, and it's great to be back, and of course always with you to talk about the future of the great state.
Well, we do got a lot I want to try to unpack, but I do want to go back to your Rangers thing real quick. That's right, I forgot you are, and don't feel bad. My dad, he has a Texas Rangers t-shirt and a Houston Astros t-shirt, and he has an Astros hat and a Rangers hat, and we go to one game a year and he wears one of each. And because my dad talks about when the Houston Astros used to have the record for the longest game, and he remembers waking up in the middle of the night, and his dad was listening to it in San Antonio that game that night when years ago when they had the record for the longest game ever played. So yeah, but to talk about that, I think whoever won that championship series was going to win the World Series, whether it was the Astros or the Rangers.
Totally.
I mean, Diamondback had no chance with either team.
I agree. I mean, Diamondbacks look dangerous next year. They're signing some talent. They're pushing their salary cap. But having said that, I mean, nobody can beat, I think, the Rangers as long as the starting pitching comes back healthy with Scherzer and others. If they're as healthy as they were in the second half of the season, man, the Rangers are going to be tough to beat. But yeah, I mean, it's so funny over the years because I remember when the Rangers did make the pennant that one time back in 07, 08 timeframe.
Yes.
And you know, when I was showing my boys back, you know, when we were in the World Series, and Nelson Cruz had that chance in right field to get that ball. And since that time, you know, more Astros, I don't even know what you call it, the Astros orange, right? That burnt orange that people were wearing, even up in Fort Worth. And I was like, man, people just, they're fair weather fans. I'm telling you, and sometimes the Rangers lane, but now it's back. And I feel like Austin, where I live now, it's kind of the battleground. Now I'm seeing more Rangers gear, and it's made a comeback. So that's good to see.
Well, it is. And, you know, that first year the Rangers went, it was a pass. It was just exciting that they were there. I was actually at Game 6 against the Yankees. Standing room only tickets were only $25. You were so amped, you didn't know you were standing for 9 innings, and you know, be there when they struck out A-Rod to go to the World Series. And then next year it was like, oh, we got to win. Then that didn't happen, of course. But hey, they won now, and here we are now back in Houston again at NAPE. You know, there's so much going on, and you know, here on the Crude Truth, we got to talk. You know, good, bad, or indifferent. There's a big renewables push, and there's a lot of work going on with the renewables. Where are you seeing that going right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you look back to Winter Storm Uri, there's a lot of finger pointing, right? You know, the legislature, you know, I think pointed the finger a lot at renewables, but there's also, you know, nat gas facilities that didn't have either nat gas on site, and a few of the coal facilities as well that were unable to turn on. And so I think the bottom line is, when you're looking at our state of now 29 million people approaching 30 million, with the growth pattern showing potentially 40 million by 2040, 2045, that we need to generate more power for residents. So to me, I mean, I want an equal playing field. I don't think that the federal government should be involved in subsidizing, and let the equal, the market play out in terms of who can be the most innovative and who can generate power on a more dispatchable basis. So that was the big buzz phrase this past session. Okay. Since we last talked, is kind of how we can get more power to those communities, including greater Houston, in a more readily and expedient way. And renewables have to be a part of that. You know, with our last winter storm, it was reported, ERCOT showed that close to 38% of the power generated was actually through solar, which is really weird. You would think in a winter storm with overcast, and you would think it'd be more wind just because of higher wind velocity, but no, it was solar. But as we have seen, sometimes it's not dependable, obviously during night or during sometimes morning hours, or if it's inclement weather. So, look, the Inflation Reduction Act, which I happen to be against politically, has created this huge tailwind, because it's $100 billion of intangible tax credits that are going to flow, a big part of which will flow to the state of Texas. So at least in my private sector legal practice, I'm seeing a lot of developers, a lot of oil and gas men, actually, large, from diversifieds to small wildcatters, that are out there trying to innovate, and whether that's store power, harness wind or solar, looking at hydrogen. I mean, Texas is just the best place to try, because our infrastructure's there. We know we have an incredible demand in terms of population growth. We're bordered by Mexico and other fast growing states. And so, the sky's the limit when it comes to Texas renewables. My only hope is that ERCOT and PUC don't overcompensate when it comes to renewables, because of the lessons that we learned from Uri.
Well, you talk about the lessons learned from Uri and how we are. I asked you about the renewables, but LNG. Our President Biden just put that halt on LNG permits for new construction. That impacts so many jobs here in the great state of Texas, or future jobs. What are your thoughts on that? And if you were there on the Hill somewhere, how could you argue that right now? I know I'm kind of putting you a little bit on the spot there, but what are your thoughts on that?
Look, this is the big talk of the town, at least even in Austin this past week, and it's devastating for the Texas economy. The anticipation is that by 2045, there will be a doubling of the requirement for natural gas, not only for our economy, but for the global economy. And it's cheap Texas natural gas that can help be the windfall and the bridge for not only American consumers of power, but also the rest of the world. And so this is about the most anti-American, energy policy that you could possibly conceive. You can't write a worse policy. As it turned out, he released this policy not by executive order, but by press release. He did it by a press statement with an indefinite end, meaning that the FERC right now will not be able to issue any new permits for LNG
Yeah.
exports. So what this means is that you're going to have tens of thousands of dollars of jobs lost on the Texas and Louisiana Gulf Coast. The Energy Committee in the House, the chairman, who's from Louisiana, demanded that the Department of Energy or somebody from the White House show up for testimony to explain this policy, and nobody showed up. If you were in the private sector and you were asked by your boss to show up for a meeting, you'd be fired if you didn't show up, right?
Immediately.
But only in Washington, D.C. can you get away with it and actually score political points. So, this benefits Vladimir Putin. It benefits the oil cartels in the Middle East when the U.S. can service this need right here, right now. So I continue to be disappointed. All of my friends in Capitol Hill are saying, look, this is a big political move.
Yes.
And that's it, is that he's appealing to his far left. Yeah. He's trying to activate the climate folks to get on his side in an election year. But we all know that the stronger American policy is to let Texas entrepreneurs continue to innovate and let us export and be the partner to Europe and to Asia, which need this commodity right here, right now, as war rears its ugly head.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question, and this one I just thought of. So here's the question, because you mentioned no other place can you show up or not show up and not get fired. I want to bring this up, and so I'm going to ask this question. Hunter Biden showed up to that hearing a couple of weeks ago and then just walked out. Okay, that's the president's son. Former President Trump's kids have been scrutinized. You are a son, or you're son of a governor. You're the nephew of a president and a grandchild of a president. Can you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so, when it comes to Hunter Biden, it's clear that there's been impropriety and he's abused the privilege, and Congress has the oversight authority to evaluate not only their taxpayer endowed authorities and duties, but also what the president and his son were doing to trade on those relationships as vice president. So, if he were more complicit, he would be transparent, stand before the Congress, but also address the charges that have been, pursued against him in federal court by the Department of Justice. And they're very real. I mean, they range from gun charges to bribery to corruption and abuse of office. And so, when it comes to the public trust of federal government, it comes to the highest powers that everybody has to be subject to the same rules.
Yeah.
And those are the same basic commitments. But if it were the Trump kids, I'll say this, that conducted the same type of affairs and abuse of office, they would already be in jail a long time ago. And I guarantee you the Department of Justice, this Department of Justice in particular, would not have looked the other way. Now, I'm glad to see that they have come forward with indictments, and he will one day see a trial unless he pleads out, which a lot of criminal cases are. But make no mistake, I mean, he's probably not going to see jail time.
Yeah.
He'll probably, plead down to a misdemeanor, and this will all be over. So, look, that's, and you didn't ask me the question that relates to my run for attorney general, but I really believe strongly about this. And that's why, the Bushes, I mean, you never see us be involved in these types of issues. And most families that are involved in politics stay away from this because there's no benefit in the long term. And this is a public office that's subject to public oversight. And it's beyond just you or me. It's about the greater good.
It is. And you hit the nail on the head. And, I forgot that we're not at the studio where I'm kind of like asking like this, like, should I be asking this? So that people see my reaction as I'm like, should I be asking this question or not? But you said, it's like you being you, it's like, I could only see that just because you have an R before y'all's name, that y'all would probably be under the same scrutiny, close to where the Trumps would probably be as the kids, because y'all grew up, just fine and no problems. I mean, shoot, I remember watching the video of you and was it 88, right? Giving the whole thing in Spanish, and I like to tell people that. It's like, well, I said that George P. speaks Spanish and speaks it better than I do.
Claro que sí. Vamos a entrevistar en español, ¿no?
Okay, let me get back to it. Real stuff. Governor Abbott just got back from India. He's been fighting hard, and some say that the LNG thing was a push against the border, really fighting against Texas. But what are your thoughts on everything he's been doing here in Texas right now?
I mean, Governor Abbott, dating back to my time when I first got elected in 2014, has been a strong advocate for the Texas energy industry. And he's allowed me, for example, along with the Attorney General, to bring suit against first the Obama administration. People forget, Obama, the governor's been serving since the Obama days.
Yes.
And early on during that time, we brought several lawsuits because they tried to shut down the oil and gas industry, utilizing the Environmental Protection Act and a variety of other regulatory and red tape hurdles to make oil and gas development more expensive and more pricey, and sometimes shutting it down. And I could bore you with some of those lawsuits, but with his experience, I think being a former attorney general, I think he understood it. But going back to your question on the trip to India, I think it was important for Texas businesses. During my time, the ambassador from India came to the States and visited the governor. I was a part of that meeting, and energy was really at the focal point. This was before the war in Ukraine, where India is a clear net importer of oil and gas and coal. And this is, again, an example, a key partner in the greater Asian subcontinent, where India could be closer to the United States. But because of our new rule, it's highly foreseeable that the Indians can't purchase more natural gas from Texas. And so this brings India closer to Vladimir Putin, to Qatar, for natural gas. And this is a lost opportunity. So, the governor, I think, has been a great advocate for Texas business, including the oil and gas industry. And so, it'll be interesting to see when you ask him for the trip, because it was productive. It was a 10-day trip with one of our most important trading partners in the world. And so in many respects, he's kind of a Chamber of Commerce president, because, he's got to market this great business environment that we have in Texas. Though, to be honest with you, we can sell ourselves, because we have now more Fortune 500 companies in the world based here in our state. We just surpassed New York and Illinois with the Caterpillar move now down to Texas. There's other great companies every day, like Motorola, that are taking a look at making the move down here. So a lot of great momentum, and the governor has a lot to enjoy in terms of credit on that. So look forward to your visit and your interview with him.
We'll see what we can get done there. One other topic as we're recording today is Vicky Holcomb of Oxy just put out that statement that we're going to be oil short here by 2025. A lot of experts are saying that, and based on the production that we have with the lack of new drilling that we don't have, I can see that being a strong case. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, first, I mean, it was a shocking statement to hear that.
Yes.
That was really, that was a strong statement. Even because the thing is, I mean, we're now at close to 14 million barrels, which is, peak U.S. production.
Yes, sir.
We've never produced more. Having said that, the Biden administration, which we talked about on LNG export bans, I think potentially, who knows, maybe he implements a crude oil ban.
Mm-hmm.
That would be absolutely devastating. As we know, he sold a lot out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve as well during his time. So, the market is pretty tight. OPEC has continued to cut production. They obviously have the capability and the reserves to ramp it up if they want to. So I'm not here to predict like where things are, geopolitically.
Get the 8 ball at that point right now.
But if you are a producer, many of whom are here right next to us right now that we're going to rub shoulders with, I mean, it's hard to forecast what 24 looks like politically, because it's really a dichotomy. President Trump has talked about drill, baby, drill, as well as the VP candidates that would potentially serve him and others in his cabinet. Whereas Biden, clearly wants to appeal to his base. So it's really hard to forecast, what your drilling schedule is going to be looking like. So, a lot of the producers, I imagine, are going to be very conservative, very prudent, just prove out your acreage and not overextend yourself, which is kind of the new norm. It sounds like in conferences like NAPE, but that's what makes the business exciting, is you got to keep your pulse on politics, what's happening internationally. But to hear that from Vicky, and we'll see what other corporate leaders have to say as well, and also the wildcatters, right? The independents that are at the edge, the bleeding edge. of taking that risk on new acreage or working with mineral owners that think they have good acreage and trying to find value. Because right now it's, you could argue that it's hard to find value in places like the Permian and so, yeah, it's a lot on the I'm glad I'm not a producer. I'm sick to being a lawyer.
God is good. But the same thing, it's hard predicting that oil out 6-12 months on what the price is going to be as we continue to drill in 2024. So yeah, no. And the thing I told somebody the other day on an interview was, I said, cause they asked that, I said, look, Oxy's major shareholder is Berkshire Hathaway. I said, so obviously Warren Buffett sees something if they're buying more. Cause I think they just bought another independent or another independent's acreage here in the last week or two. So they got to know, obviously he must know something, or he has a team that's telling him something.
Yeah.
So you were talking about VP candidates, is there any rumors about you? No, but I do want to ask you this, as of today, who are you supporting in the 2024 race?
So I've stayed out of the primary and I'll continue to do so. My focus really has been electing good conservative candidates and probably a good opportunity to plug my political action committee called Restore Trust.
Yes.
So after the campaign, I basically created an account focused on helping to elect conservative candidates here in the state of Texas and around the country that believe in things like innovative American energy policy. And so, for example, in Fort Worth, we're actually going to support the district attorney there. We're helping out a county commissioner and also judge as well, because we believe Tarrant County is a battleground county, which is your home county. And I'm biased because I lived in Fort Worth for so long. But there's some important Texas races where we're taking on George Soros-backed candidates and others. So I'm going to be supporting the eventual nominee. I'll be there with bells and whistles at the Republican convention up in Milwaukee and working really hard to elect the next Republican president of the United States, because it's so important for the state of Texas.
Yes.
But I know my role. I think I'm better working in the Hispanic community, working with young entrepreneurs here in Texas, helping to groom the next candidates, because a lot of candidates or people thinking about running for office approach me and ask for advice, and love helping out behind the scenes, including Texas Victory, which is helping on registering new voters and getting the next generation of conservative candidates running here in Texas. So that keeps me busy, but yeah, the national election will be important, a lot of important policies, but we got to keep Texas red, because if we lose Texas, then the country goes in a really dangerous direction.
Texas has the United States on its shoulders, physically almost. I mean, you look at, so yeah. And what was the name of the PAC one more time?
Restore Trust PAC. So just check me out online. It's restoretrustpac.com. But we also have a Facebook page, Twitter account as well, or you can just follow me at George P. Bush on Twitter, Instagram, all the social media. I'm not on TikTok. Because they are owned by the Chinese, I believe, still. Restore Trust is up to some good stuff and helping some good candidates. And we're also helping out folks around the country and energy now because of the Biden announcement on LNG export. I'm not saying that because I'm here at NAPE. It's our top 3 issue, along with border security and just simple common sense governance, reining in our debt, which is going to strangle our generation and our children's generation unless we get it right. So I hope more of your audience will get involved with politics and maybe get involved with Restore Trust.
Okay. Well, George, I cannot thank you enough for coming by here in Houston, talking here at NAPE, the NAPE Expo 2024. And I look forward to seeing what happens next. And so thank you very much. And to everybody out there, thank y'all. And we'll see you again on another episode of The Crude Truth.
Again, thank you to our sponsors, LFS Chemistry, NAPE Expo, Air Compressor Solutions, Exec Crew, Oil and Gas Workers Association, Pecos Country Operating.
The easiest way to start your own podcast and TV show? Real News Communications Network. Stand out from your competition. Produce streams of high-quality social media content. Become a thought leader in your industry. With RNCN, you get to be the host. We handle everything else. Tour one of our 3 locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Colony. Call 972-402-6333 or visit launchashow.com to find out more.